Garett, it's NFL draft season. The combine just happened. Garett, when's the last time that we've really successfully drafted an offensive tackle?
I mean, that's kind of the question, right? It's like everyone is always talking about like why we have not had successful tackle play in forever, and they're like, well, oh, we're leaving Mahomes out to dry, and it's like we haven't drafted a tackle that's been successful since Eric Fisher, right? And we took him number one overall, so like it was kind of expected for him to be at least a little bit successful, right? And I feel like he
And
got a
some
lot
and
of hate.
some people even call him not a right pick. I mean,
Yeah,
Lane
I mean, some
Johnson
people
was
call
there
him a
too.
bust, right? Like, I mean, he was kind of having those allegations until he won a Super Bowl, and then it was like, oh, we forgive Eric Fisher going number one overall. The last tackle that we drafted after Eric Fisher was Lucas Niang,
Well,
right?
there's Darian Kennard as well, but then he got moved to guard
Yeah. Then he
immediately.
got moved to guard immediately because he couldn't play at tackle. Then it was Lucas Niang, bust. I mean, yeah, third round pick wasn't great. And then we go to guys like Wanya Morris, right? So like we're talking about everyone saying, where's our tackle play? Why is our tackle play not up to par? We don't draft tackles. And like
No.
all these people saying like, oh, Veach has a specific way of drafting tackles. It's like, well, obviously that's not working. So we need to change up how we view the tackles that we want to play and draft if we want to have success blocking Mahomes' blind side, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And his right side as well, because as you mentioned, some of these tackles are right and left tackles. Uh, yeah, guys, it's draft season. It's time to have all the hot takes, get in love with some players, hate some other players for no reason. And this is Talking Chop, as always.
Yeah, I want to just talk about that for a second.
This guy is a
it
beast.
seems like he just rubs butter on himself.
Because he had 2 touchdowns, baby. Welcome back, watchers and listeners, to the draft episode / combine more actually episode of Talking Chop. I'm your host, David Pokorny of Upper Hand Chiefs. Follow us on Instagram. I'm here with Garett Aimutis, our local high school offensive line coach. As always, Garett, how are we doing on this fine Monday? We're back on Mondays.
We're doing good. We're back on Mondays. We're getting back in the groove. I mean, obviously the combine just finished off, so we got a lot to talk about in terms of future prospects that possibly could be coming to the Chiefs. We have some visits to talk about. We've had a lot more since the last time
yeah.
we visited with the boys, but pretty big news to start off, I'd say, before we get into that.
Trey Smith is back for at least the franchise tag. We have like 9 days left right now to get back under the salary cap because franchise tagging him was
Really
expensive.
expensive.
$23 million, Garett, for that franchise tag. Do you like the move? It's a move that neither you nor I kind of saw coming at all. We kind of ruled out that as a possibility due to the cap and due to the fact that we thought he was going to get a huge payday, potentially from the Bears or many other
Yeah,
teams.
when I initially thought about it, right, it's like I think my wording was never in a million years, right? But somehow Veach just made it happen. Obviously, I mean, we've heard from multiple sources that this is not, a tag and trade thing. We're trying to get a long-term deal done, but we're pretty severely under the cap right now. It's going to take a lot of managing money and moving contracts around to get us back over to where we need to be. Um, when I first talked about it, I was kind of against the idea. I mean, I love Trey Smith. He's done a great job for us. He's a great player. But we don't really need 3 severely good inside guys when our major problems are on the outside, right? And in terms of resource allocation, yes, we have the money to, reallocate and keep Trey Smith on the roster, but we could have reallocated those resources and still had way more money had we not signed Trey Smith, right? Go out, maybe get an even premier tackle with a bigger contract. Um, Obviously, if he stays, that's going to be great for us. He's a great player, but I just think in the long run, I think I would have rather seen us be a little bit more aggressive in pursuing maybe an outside tackle.
Well, Garett, you go back to the 3 offensive line interior guys. Joe Tooney's not going to be around much longer. I mean, he actually is still playing at an elite level, so actually maybe he is going to be around for much longer. Who knows? But his next contract's not going to be nearly as much. But I mean, yeah, I mean, the tackles out there right now in the market though aren't good enough to pay that money though.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, it would either have to be like a huge trade or just getting someone who isn't really up to par. But I mean,
I would
even then,
rather
it's
trade
like,
up and draft a tackle. I hope we draft one. I mean, I
I
already see people in the comments talking about Josh Connery already, and we're gonna
yeah.
get to him. But Garett, you have some guys too that you've been heavily
I have
scouting.
some guys too I've been looking at, and I haven't watched a good amount of film as I usually want to, but that'll be in upcoming episodes. But honestly, I want to draft multiple. I want to draft a tackle with our first pick, and preferably trade up, and maybe even another one in the third or the fourth. But we definitely have some needs to address, that's for sure.
Garrett, I'm already seeing comments about like short arms.
Yeah,
What's your take?
we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, the short arms thing is one of my pet peeves when it comes to tackles. Right, everyone's like, oh well, I'm watching this kid. We'll talk about this. I'm gonna go on a quick rant. Okay, I got triggered by the count. Okay, one of my top draft crushes this year is Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas, and I mean he has been a premier left tackle since he joined Texas. He's been proven against multiple defensive powerhouses at that edge position. But as soon as I mentioned Kelvin Banks Jr., we got guys being like, oh, well, he's got too short of arms, right? The guy measured at 33.5-inch wingspan. Guys like Penei Sewell had half an inch longer, right? So, like, we're looking at, the eye test, right? We're looking at the eye test. We're looking at proven skills against proven opponents, right? Kelvin Banks Jr. had one of his best games ever against Will Anderson Jr., right? These are premier guys. So when I'm talking about tackles, right, and some guys like, oh, we have short arms. Yeah, let's just throw him under the bus. Let's throw out everything he's ever done in his whole collegiate career just because the dude can't do this for a half inch more, right? But that's enough on that little rant. We have some visits we have to talk about because the Chiefs brought some guys in the building that we could possibly be bringing in forever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, hey, and I want to always go back to the visits. Like, yeah, everyone's like, oh, the visits don't matter. Visits this, visits that. I'm going to pop them on the screen real quick, too, because I have that little ticker that we all like so much. The ticker of people who we visited or talked with. Remember, Xavier Worthy was a visit. Kingsley was a visit. And Carson Steele, fullback / running back, was also a visit last year. So, again, it does have some indication of who we're actually looking at, which will be great. So, hey, first off, Garrett, let's go with the one that I literally am not really wanting to get at all, but Cameron Williams, right tackle out of Texas.
No bueno. No bueno.
He did not test at the combine, so my graphic doesn't have like anything other than his
I wonder
stats.
why.
Five sacks. I mean, Texas fans were not a big fan of him. I'm not here to like trash on this player, but I know that he definitely got a rise in draft stock purely based on the school he went to. So,
yeah. I mean, I watched a good amount of Texas games just because I like Kelvin Banks, and you could tell there was a severe difference in skill compared to one side or the other, right? Kelvin Banks holding down that left side. Just kind of made Quinn Ewers' job a bit harder than it needed to be off on that right side. Obviously skipped the combine. I know a lot of people have this kind of like weird stigma where it's like, oh, well, you can't like judge a guy too much for skipping out on stuff on the combine, right? But like if this is your chance to bump your draft stock even a little bit, what are you trying to hide, brother? What are you trying to hide?
Well, we got as well Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. This guy is one of my draft crushes already. I've seen a lot of guys in the group chats that I'm in talking about this guy because he's being compared to Chris Jones. We definitely need an interior defensive tackle. We're going to be losing Derek Nottie most likely. Mike Pennell is getting up there in age. Tershawn Wharton, more of a pass rushing type. And Chris Jones is getting up there in age too. We need a bigger presence on the interior. Derek Harmon is definitely an intriguing prospect. I mean, look at those stats last year. I mean, the 4 batted passes, a lot of the commonality of the guys we've been visiting have had a lot of batted passes. That's so Spags-esque. Spags loves his batted passes.
Yeah. And especially like with the intangibles, right? Like Veach and Spags, they're all over like these really explosive, really athletic D tackles. And he just kind of fits right in that spot over there with like guys like Wharton or Nottie or even or Saunders. Hopefully we can get him back too. We talked about him earlier, but just those athletic interior D tackles is kind of like a big like exclamation point for Veach whenever he's in the draft room.
Yeah, that reminds me of a defensive tackle from Ole Miss who's getting a lot of buzz right now for his 8 collegiate touchdowns on offense. And Colin Saunders, that definitely feels like that. This guy he did not test in the combine due to injury, except he still did bench press. So honestly, shout out to Elijah Arroyo. Tight end, he actually measured taller. This is the rare times when the combine measurements, you're taller than your college says. So 6'5", 250, huge presence. Presence. And honestly, great stats across the board for him. I mean, hey, we got to get Kelsey's replacement. It's only his last year now, final year for Kelsey. I mean, yes, Noah Gray just got an extension, but hey, doesn't hurt to maybe get more talented at that position. We like to deploy more than one tight end, so Arroyo's a fun guy, definitely, for sure. Josh Connery. I don't know how to say that. It's like Connerly.
Josh Connerly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this guy's a beast. I mean, I was looking at some of his pass. He's more of a pass protector than a run blocker, which is great because
great at this
don't
point.
run.
That's really what we need right now. So I'm going to talk a bit more about him later in the show, but he has been pretty solid over there for Oregon, and he has a lot on tape that I like. So
yeah, no, absolutely. We can more blow by the people who we've actually visited with. Ollie Gordon. This one's interesting. I like to make the player look as good as possible when I put these graphics out for you guys. Cameron Williams, that was a really hard task, honestly. So I just put his last year's stat. Ollie Gordon had a down year in 2024, but his 2023-2024 season was insane. Like 2,000 total yards and 22 touchdowns. Like this guy was insane, but the fall off, interesting. 4.640 is interesting.
that's kind of abysmal. Sure. It's kind of hard to look past that, especially at the running back position. It's like,
but he did visit.
He did visit, right? And I mean, we've had good running backs visit before, but I mean, when it comes down to it, we already have running backs that are fast and slow, right? I mean, when we look at guys like Pacheco, when he did his combine, he ran a 4.37, and we still haven't even really seen him break one long yet, right? So
yeah,
when you have a guy that runs a 4.6, not showing too great.
No, absolutely. I did see a comment come in that's tight end related that I will answer real quick. What do you guys think of Harold Fannin Jr.? I love him as a prospect. I mean, I do like those small school guys who just keep getting underrated. Bowling Green tight end who had like over 1,000 yards and still didn't win tight end of the year. Mm-hmm. He's really small and he's not as fast as I thought he would be. But hey, I mean, they put him at any position. He's kind of like a Deebo Samuel type in the sense where they line him up at like running back and they line him up at like, all over the place because Bowling Green needed talent everywhere, I guess. But honestly,
scheme your guy the ball. Scheme your best guy the ball. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, I would say kind of how Georgia used Brock Bowers, but to a more extreme sense, if I were to be honest. All right, we're gonna get to a guy. I'm gonna bring in Jackson, our stats man, for this guy because I mean, let's be real here. He's an Iowa State alum. Jackson is so. Darian Porter just shot up draft boards, and he had an amazing day. And honestly, guys, I think we gotta consider getting him, right? I mean, 6'3", 195, almost 200 pounds, 4.3, 40-yard dash, and I mean, great stats. And he's just starting to come on. He started out as a wide receiver at Iowa State.
I mean, and our boy Jackson can tell us all about him, and he watched every Iowa State game last year. So,
Oh yeah, this guy. I mean, yeah, he started out as a receiver, but by his, I think it was sophomore year, he switched over to cornerback. He honestly didn't get too many starts or snaps those 2 years. I think each year he maybe had a little over 100. This last year, though, oh my God, he became a completely different person. He is just a lockdown defender. One of my favorite stats, take a guess at just in the year 2024. I'm pretty sure I've said this stat a few times talking about him. Take a guess at what the passer rating what quarterbacks' passer ratings against him are.
I mean, you're hyping him up a bit. I'd say like low 40s.
I have to say, yeah, like 43 or 40. Get it?
Well,
Garrett's.
You got the 4.7.
Whoa,
4.7. Bro was locked down, man.
He graded out on PFF as a 79.4. He's not the best when it comes to run defense. He is a lot more a zone specialist. I mean, man, he's okay, but he really, in the zone, he is phenomenal.
Bro's got that high football IQ is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. What I was concerned with was his tackles were only at 18 tackles, but if that's because he literally is targeted and the player doesn't catch the ball that he's guarding,
he's not going to get a tackle.
He's not going to get a tackle. Well,
I would love it if we got him in day one. I would buy that jersey on draft.
Oh yeah, it would be a fun one for sure. I mean, honestly, we're going to see later too, me and Garrett's top positions of need. I think DB is definitely one of them, and that is a Snead-esque player. He reminds me of Snead, but without the run defense. I mean, just measurables alone. But hey,
yeah.
Jackson, thanks for popping in. He'll be monitoring comments and doing other things as well, too, to help us out and giving us some stats on some of these young guys. So if there's anyone you want to know more about, Jackson will PFF their PFF them up. So, all right, we're going to finish off with Trey Amos. Another guy, I'm a little concerned about him. He's been at 3 schools in his 5-year college career. Finished last year at Ole Miss for his first season with Ole Miss, and last because it was time to graduate. 13 pass breakups, so it was pretty good. 4 TFLs, 3 interceptions. He also visited with us. So, hey, shout out Trey. And then we got this guy, Darius Alexander. Toledo.
Pretty excited about this guy.
He's shooting up draft boards, Garrett. Shooting up. The combine can do so many wonders for these small school guys. I mean, besides his 4.95 40-yard dash for a defensive tackle, that's 305. That's pretty impressive. But he also had 31 bench reps as well, which I mean.
Yeah, he was, I think, second in bench reps. So, I mean, even up against, some pretty tough competition. I mean, he's putting up numbers, and once again, another explosive guy that, Veach and Spags are going to be in the draft room, just like a bunch of sirens are going off. Like this could be a guy that we potentially get.
Yeah, and I mean, he has a pick 6. We were talking about Colin Saunders-esque players. I mean, this guy's a pick 6 in his career last year, so could be fun.
And
now,
keep in mind, we had him visit before he was cool, right? Before he had his combine draft. So we'll be high up on his board, I'm sure.
Yes, and then we also had some other guys that I didn't make a graphic for yet visit as well. South Carolina edge Kyle Kennard, Florida linebacker Samar James, Ohio State defensive tackle Ty Hamilton, not Tyreek Williams, who everyone's obsessed with right now, and then Florida State defensive tackle Joshua Farmer. So, hey, a lot of visits, a lot of time to do more visits.
Just don't draft Cameron Williams, please, Veach. I'm begging you. Just don't do it.
If he drafts Cameron Williams, it'll be very telling. The fact that he visited with us is also telling because Cameron Williams is a right tackle through and through. So, is that saying Jawan Taylor might not be on the roster next year?
Because I'm hoping. Please trade him. Please somehow get him off the roster.
Because if we draft Cameron Williams and Josh Connerly, let's say, we're not going to, but let's say that we did, I'd be like, oh, that's very telling, hey, right tackle might be the position we're looking at too. Although I genuinely think Wanya Morris is not terrible at right tackle. So, Garrett, let's move on to what do the Chiefs need? You're off of a Super Bowl loss. You're off of 2 Super Bowl wins previous to that. And you're one of the best teams in the nation. What more do you need? Well, you got to start with left tackle. I think that's number 1 on both of our lists. So,
absolutely.
Top 3 positional needs, Garrett. What are your other 2 positional needs?
I mean, obviously, as you said, left tackle. That's immediate number 1. If I had to choose between interior D-line and DB, I would probably lean more towards DB first, especially, I feel like Jalen Watson, especially at the end of the season, got a lot of hate, right? But, I mean, he had just came back off of an injury. Pre-injury, he was flying off. I mean, he was playing phenomenally, but I think with McDuffie and Watson, really locking down the outside, I think we could really focus on DBs that kind of take care of our intermediary needs, right? More just like a slot corner, just so we can move our guys that we've been kind of forcing to play that slot role back to safety where they belong and where they can play really well.
Yeah, like Connor.
Connor. Right? So I'd probably focus more on DB, and then especially after that interior D-line. I'm really hoping, honestly, that we draft 2 tackles in this draft. Preferably maybe moving up, especially if Kelvin Banks drops down, like I'm kind of expecting him to, maybe into the 15 range. Veach, you never do this, but please trade up. Just do it this once for me. It'll be worth it, and then probably draft another one in the 3rd.
Well, he traded up for McDuffie, and he traded up a little bit to get Xavier Worthy, but trading up for a left tackle is going to require jumping probably ahead of 20, wouldn't you have to assume, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, if he does it, that'd be amazing. For me, I actually prioritize interior defensive line just a little bit more than DB, but other than that, that's our only difference. I mean, I'm just a little concerned, Chris Jones' age. Will we be able to keep Tershawn Wharton? We'll definitely decide how much of a D tackle market we actually have. But, Pennell's getting up there in age, also a free agent. And then Nadi, also a free agent, who probably he just isn't the same player that he was way back when we drafted him. It feels like yesterday that we drafted Derek Nadi, but it's actually, I think, in 2018. So,
and I mean, all of this is with the information we have right now, right? Closer to draft time, and we still have really no confirmation on the deal with Nick Bolton right now. So, could we
We could
possibly
be.
need a meat at linebacker, right? So
Yeah.
it all boils down to what's going on in the background that we can't really see, just through the visage that Veach has up right now. And from what our initial thoughts are, it has to be tackle first. It can be DT or DB in between, and then after that, I mean, I feel like after that it just turns into luxury, right? But just those were the glaring spots, especially in the Super Bowl, that we can't survive much longer if Mahomes has no time to throw.
Absolutely. Well, Garrett, do you want to get into some of our, some of our personal fan favorite picks so far in the NFL draft combine that we've seen so far?
Oh,
Wow,
absolutely.
I said so far so many times in that conversation. Wow. But I mean, we already talked about Darian Porter from Iowa State. I've given him enough flowers. Projected first, second round pick. Uh, let's talk about a seventh round pick right now, just because this is the order of the list of players I did. Isaiah Noir out of Nebraska. I just liked his measurables in his combine time, and he's a seventh round pick. This is something that we never do that I'm kind of upset that we don't. Why have we not taken like a seventh round wide receiver yet, or like a sixth round wide receiver yet in the Veach era? Like the last late round wide receiver we took was Cornell Powell in the fifth, but lately there has been so many good sleepers in the late
Yeah,
rounds.
and
Like,
if with him it's either been first, second, or third, or you're not being drafted, buddy.
yeah, I mean, you've got guys in late rounds like Puka Nakua, Jordan Whittington, like both Rams players, ironically, but like Trey Palmer, like some late guys who have been going, who have been very solid contributors. We need to fill out the depth at this wide receiver room now. We have 5 wide receivers who are hitting free agency. So we're going to need some guys that can maybe step in and be a lot better than maybe their draft projection is. Isaiah Noir running a 440, 6'4". He was injured a lot of college. He never really got a chance to shine. Started doing well at Nebraska his last year. I'd love to take that guy in the 7th round. I think that's a great use of a 7th round pick for sure. Garrett, you want to talk more about Kelvin Banks? You already touched on him earlier, but I know that's one
Yeah,
of
I
your
mean,
guys.
we touched on him earlier, but I feel like my top tackle in this draft has to be Kelvin Banks Jr. He has been lights out against the biggest competition, right? I mean, he's had significant improvement in the way he's played, has played exclusively left tackle, which is something that we've been severely lacking in terms of tackles or even anyone that plays tackle for us that we bring in, right? It's like we always bring in guys that moved from right to left, or they, just recently we had to move Tooney over to left tackle, right? And Kareem Hunt lovey-dovey's back. We love to see it. But I think just a lot of people, a lot of the weariness that comes from Kelvin Banks is like short arms, right? Or he doesn't have the desired thickness, right? Is a word that everyone loves to use, right? I prefer to watch an individual play football and grade him based off of his grade, and not if he can do this, and just be like, oh, I need half an inch more, and then I'll be a goat, right? So I just think his pass protection has shown that it's something that we need. He has a really good feel for the pocket, and as you can tell from you watching Texas this year, David, I mean, he was the bright star of that Texas O line this year.
Absolutely. And I mean, he kind of maybe made other players look a lot better. And I mean, you also have to factor in too, like Quinn Ewers had a tendency to hold on to the ball really late, and that might inflate sack numbers on players like that. So, hey, if he starts to fall because of his injury,
Totally
good.
fine with me.
We can
Totally
trade
fine
up.
with me, baby.
I'm going to move on to another Texas guy, actually, who was faster than I was anticipating, honestly. Jade Barron with his 4.39 combine shocked me, honestly, because he's definitely the Snead player. He started out as a safety, moved to that star position that they have in college, which is kind of the do-it-all slot corner safety hybrid play everywhere guy. You're basically the best player on defense in the secondary if you play that position. But then he moved to outside corner in his final season and won the freaking corner of the year. So, I mean, this guy can play anywhere. I think he'll probably start to be gone now at our pick, unfortunately. If he slips to us, it's hard to ignore that talent. Um, and I mean, I'll say this too. I mean, there's another guy I'm about to talk about, Nick Manwari out of South Carolina, who also is shooting up draft boards because he ran a 4.36, a 4.38, and a 6.3 at 220, and is a safety. Like, these DBs are starting to get really high praise, and I mean, yeah, if they go fast, I might want to get one sooner rather than later in this draft. Is kind of what I'm saying. But
Yeah, I
obviously,
mean,
tackle is the biggest.
we could easily see a run on DBs this draft. I feel like the athleticism is through the roof, especially at that position. Speaking of athletic DBs, let's go the opposite. I have a guy that I think the 40 time is going to scare a lot of people off. But when I watch the guy play and I look at his numbers, right, I feel like this is just the absolute definition of a Spags defensive back, right? And that's Kobe Bryant. 40 time, not phenomenal. However, I think the way he plays the game at corner, right, is he is not a guy that's afraid to get his hands dirty, get in a box, and make a tackle, right? He goes from a lot of different angles. He lines up in a lot of places. And like I said earlier, if we have our outsides locked down with guys like McDuffie and Watson, right, he is okay at being this intermediary guy where we can send him from pressure, plug boxes. I mean, he's a phenomenal tackler, super secure, just a hard-nosed player, brings a lot of just heat and effort to the defense. And I mean, I know a lot of guys say it, but I mean, he's just a dog. He's got a dog in him. He's got a lot of fight, and I like to see that out of my corners.
You know, Gary, you were joking earlier on the show about players maybe tanking their draft stock on purpose by running a slow 40 because they want to go to a certain place. Kobe Bryant has been very vocal that he wants to be a Kansas City Chief. What if, he slowed down a little bit? Because
you never know. You never know.
He knows that one team will definitely take him if he falls to them at a certain pick. So we'll have to wait and see on that guy. But yeah, I shouldn't be scared of the 40 time. I try not to put too much stock into it for certain positions, but corner is one of the ones I do like to see.
And it's fair. But I just feel like the dude's a dog on the inside, and that's just kind of a player that Spags loves to have. I mean, he loves that guy that he can just send from pressure anywhere and just run through guys, and that's just kind of what Kobe Bryant is.
Kareem Hunt Levy W wants to talk about the "I'ma run a 4-1" guy.
That was hilarious. That is probably the most iconic moment from this NFL combine. And
I mean, I knew it wasn't gonna happen. Like,
I know it wasn't gonna happen. But like at the same time, how are you gonna talk all that smack going to the combine and then not even run like a 4.3, right? Like you're talking, I'm gonna get a 4.1. Bro ran a 4.4. Like,
well, they corrected it apparently.
Oh, they changed
it. It's a 4.39 now, Garrett, just so he can have the 3.
Of course.
But I mean, Isaiah Bond is probably faster than that. I'll give him that. But I mean,
yeah, and to his point, yeah, why would you ever say that anyway, right? But yeah, a 4.1 was an insane statement to say before running a 4.4 right on the nose. And also, before we head on, this is super true. I watched Kobe Bryant play in Arrowhead against Colorado and locked up Travis Hunter. That's all I'm going to say. Anytime Travis Hunter wasn't on Kobe Bryant, Travis Hunter had an insane game. Anytime Kobe Bryant was on him, locked. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, true. I'll give you that. I mean,
watch that in person.
And Travis Hunter didn't test anything, which, I mean, he's just hurting his draft stock if he did test anything. He doesn't need to do that. Someone who, for some reason...
Jonty should have won the Heisman. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
He should have won the Heisman. That's all I'm going to say. Travis Hunter got a pity Heisman.
I used to be on that train, but I mean, you know what? I still can be. If Jonty won the playoff game.
Ashton Jonty quite literally carried Boise State alone to a playoff spot. How are you the best player, supposedly the most valuable player on your team, and you have another guy that's up for Heisman on your same team? How is that possible, right? Ashton Jonty absolutely should have won the Heisman. It's not even close.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, Garrett, we're just not going to be able to draft him.
I know. I love Ashton Jonty so much, and he's probably going to be a Raider. I'm going to be super mad.
You think he's going to the Raiders? Actually,
no, he's going to. I guarantee
that's a good comp. They should take a running back. I mean, not early, though, because
I'll be so mad.
They have the problem of too many needs.
As long as Ashton Jonty does not go to an AFC West team, the Eagles for some reason, or the Cowboys, I'll be happy.
Oh, he might go to the Cowboys. He probably will go.
That's such a Cowboys pick. You know it is. Jerry Jones is chomping at the bit for a guy like Ashton Jonty.
Well, speaking Speaking of players who I guess are underrated, because somehow Ashton Jonty is still underrated in Garrett's eyes because he should have been the Heisman. But Luther Burden out of Missouri, what happened? I mean, this last season, talk about like Ollie Gordon having a fall off. Luther Burden had less of a fall off. He's still really good, but he had a fall off as well. He's trying to get back into the first round. He was supposed to be the first wide receiver off the board, and now they're like, oh, he might not even be a first round pick. He ran a 4.41, which is really good for him, honestly. And hey, I've seen guys in the chat say if he's at 31, they want to take him. I am definitely not on that boat, but I mean, if we trade back and he's there at our trade back in the second round pick, hell, if he's there with our second round pick that's late in the second round, I mean, sure, let's take him. But I just wanted to highlight him because he's a Missouri kid and like, you know, we're Kansas City Chiefs, but like just kind of surprised at his fall is all I'm going to say. We could highlight some more Kansas kids and Kansas State kids. Garett, Jacob Parrish. I mean, talk about him and his. I mean,
obviously, hey, hometown kid, right? And has a super wide skill set. Played mostly on the outside, but his second majority being slot, which is kind of a position of need for us right now. We've talked plenty of times about guys that we want to move out of that slot position, move back to safety where they belong. But when we talk about athleticism in this draft class, I mean, he kind of exemplifies that to a T, right? Little short, but has a really great vert. Ran a 4.35. Not much more you can ask out of the kid, and he played really well at K-State. I mean, got a buddy of mine, Brock, who watched a bunch of K-State, so I'm sure he can tell you more about that eventually, but I would not mind seeing him in red.
And his safety counterpart, Marcus Single, who was also a DB for K-State, also ran a 4.37. So those K-State DBs, they just shot their draft stock up and through the air. I want to talk about a running back here that I've been a fan of for a little bit here. RJ Harvey out of UCF. Listen, I know he's only 5'8", but like Genty's only 5'8", and so is ETN. Like they're everyone's short now at the running back position because it's like, you know, in the trenches you want to get low. What's better when you're already 5'8"? But he's 205 pounds. He's a huge kid. Ran a 4.4 40
bowling ball,
dash.
dude. 5'8", 205.
Yeah, he's huge, dude. He's
bro's got thick thighs. You got to know.
When I was watching him run his combine, I was like, oh, this kid's like definitely 6 foot, like just because he looks huge, like he is yoked. But RJ Harvey's going to be there in the 5th round, maybe in the 6th round, and if he's there and we trade up or get a pick, because the picks we have right now are not the picks that we're going to enter the draft with. I'm going to tell you right now, Veach likes having more picks than less picks, and right now we're kind of at a pick deficit. We have under 7, but if RJ Harvey's there late, I mean. That we already said we might be looking at veteran running backs. We're definitely probably going to draft a running back in this draft because it's such a deep running back draft. And our room is up in the air. I mean, Pacheco's injured. Kareem Hunt's a free agent.
You can get value at pretty much any round at running back in this draft. So I would not be surprised if our like 4th or 5th round pick goes to running back. I'm seeing in the comments Devin Neal. I'm a big Devin Neal guy, and he's another one, right? That we saw.
He ran a
slower 40, right?
But that doesn't matter.
I don't think 40 times matter that much. And another comment there. I did hear about Darius Slay getting released. I mean, we don't need that crash out on our team. I just feel like he brings a negative energy to a room that needs a little bit more unity right now. So
I hate to break it to everybody, but we literally are negative $23 million.
Yeah, like we're not bringing anybody in until that is fixed, like at all. Like it's just not possible.
Like, we need to refocus on signing Nick Bolton. I want to get more draft picks, and I don't know how we're going to do that, but I think Veach will find a way to get some late-round draft picks. Honestly, if the guy that we want at 31
trade Bolton for picks, bro, no. It's not a... Look,
it's not as easy as you think. It's not a Madden franchise.
First of all, it's not as easy as it sounds. Second of all, the dude is the leader of our defense besides Chris Jones, right?
Well, also, we already have a tag on Trey Smith. You only get one tag, so it's too late. Nick Bolton is a free agent.
And it's just like, I understand Nick Bolton gets a lot of hate, right? Like, yes, his man coverage isn't as great as it should be, right, for a premier inside linebacker. But for what he is and what he does for our defense, the man is a secure tackler, plays hard-nosed football, and puts everyone in the right position, right? That's all we need out of an inside linebacker. The guy is a game master in the middle.
Did someone say trade Kelsey?
Trade Kelsey? We could maybe get a corn dog for him at this point. I think we might get 2 because he has 2 legs. But we'll see.
No, yeah. Nick Bolton is goated, as Kareem Hunt lovey-dovey says. He okay, kind of sold on that one play in the Super Bowl, bro. The whole team sold on that
The whole
whole
the whole
play
team sold the whole the
game.
defense did not sell that game, but like the whole team sold that game, right?
Yeah.
No one came to play. It
Yeah.
is what it is.
Speaking, but players who did come to play, Garrett, are Landon Jackson, defensive end out of Arkansas. I have been in love with this weird looking prospect. Sorry, Landon Jackson, you look goofy as hell. I've been obsessed with this prospect for a while. 6'6", 264 pounds, ran a 4.68 40. He is a defensive end, and he is the long, lengthy Spags defensive end. He reminds me of Carlos Dunlap in his prime, and I think this kid could be an amazing. He could be an amazing. I see Kareem Hunt lovey-dovey saying 6'7". I thought he was 6'7" too, but the combine measured him down an inch, and that's colleges tend to exaggerate their inches. That's kind of funny, out of context. But yeah, Landon Jackson, definitely a defensive end I like, as well as Jordan Birch out of Oregon, 6'4", 270. He ran a 4.67, which is insane at that weight. So a lot of bigger defensive ends that are fast and lengthy, which are exactly to see a Spagnuolo type. I know our defensive end room is good right now, but I definitely think we might be adding to the pass rush in some form or another. And we talked about Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle, earlier already. So, I mean, Garrett, let's move it back over to offensive linemen, though.
Yeah, these next two I'm kind of gonna just talk about in tandem because Kelvin Banks is my tackle of choice if the Chiefs were to move up in draft. But the first one is another one that we'd probably have to move up for. It is being touted that he could possibly drop to us at 31. I don't see it as much as a lot of other people are seeing, but I could also see it happening. Josh Connerly, offensive tackle out of Oregon, designated left tackle once again, has only played left tackle his entire career. Shows a ton of promise. I mean, he's got a good anchor, good feel for anything in the pocket. Performed really well in the combine, had a lot of great stuff. When we talk about explosiveness in the combine, right, I'm talking like vert, broad jump, and like the shuttle, right? Change of direction, explosiveness out of your legs, and more explosiveness when it comes to vert. But performed really well in a lot of that stuff in the combine. Earned a lot of honors. Press All-American, first team All Big Ten, all these kind of different things that you can look for in an offensive tackle. I would not be mad at all if the Chiefs took him at 31, or if he even had to move up maybe a couple spots to snag him. This other guy, though, is someone that I could see dropping way later, that I think is moving a lot of under a lot of people's radars. Wyatt Millam out of West Virginia. Honestly, I could really see him, especially in those later round picks, like third or fourth round. I could see him dropping to us, and I think we could actually take him. Really powerful. We saw a lot during the Super Bowl that teams were just running directly through our chest. That is something that is never happening with Wyatt Millam. Watched a lot of his film. He is really good on the outside. Has a really good feel for when he's getting just too deep in his sets. But I know it's a smaller school, but Wyatt Millam has shown a lot, especially during the combine. He's getting up there in numbers, but watch that kid from West Virginia, man. He can surprise you.
Yeah, that's why we bring you on the show, Garrett, for those like random offensive linemen that nobody's looking for. I feel like a lot of people could easily find gem wide receivers or gem corners because you're watching the casual viewer is watching those positions a lot more intensely. Oh, gem running backs as well. But finding a gem offensive lineman late is definitely a harder task, as we have tried to do with Lucas Niang and
Well, I mean, Veach has tried to do it forever, and it has not worked, which is why I'm begging him to trade up. Begging.
Now, this is a guy that has definitely solidified himself as a first-round pick, and that's Armand Membao, the Missouri offensive tackle, 6'4", 332 pounds, 31 bench press rep, 4.9 40 time. This guy's an athlete. This guy's a freak athlete. Is he worth a first? He might be gone, honestly, by the time that we start picking. But I mean, he's a tackle that is also an availability and a hometown kid, and you see that sometimes we tend to do that with the Felix pick in the first round. So I mean, if he's there,
it's just one of those guys that really shows out in the combine, and whether that's to our benefit or he's just showing off, we'll see. I mean, I haven't looked at his tape yet, so I mean, after that combine performance, I might have to. But
Yeah, I
Hey,
mean,
I'm always welcoming more tackles in the tackle room, baby.
absolutely. And then finally,
And
I just want, or what were you gonna say?
yes, it is absolutely hilarious that Eagles fans think they're getting Abdul Carter. It's just not like, stop tripping. It's not gonna happen.
Oh, oh yeah,
Like
no,
they're
for
like,
sure.
oh, he got injured, so he's gonna. No, he's not falling, brother. It's not gonna happen.
Well, it's just because he's a fan of the Eagles that he's not gonna go there. Kareem Hunt Lovey Dovey mentioned Jade Barron, dude. If he's there at 31, it's gonna be hard. It's just so hard to justify taking a corner at 31 because of our needs. A lot of things are gonna have to change for us to have that luxury again. But like, we should get Eric Berry back. I did not mean to click that, but Jade Barron is a stud, and I think is the literal L'Jarius Sneed player except for height. And I just love Jade Barron. So I mean, I would be happy, but again, I want to protect our quarterback, and I think that's more important. So what else? There was a couple of comments too. Trade for Dan Moore Jr. Garrett, do you want Dan Moore Jr., the offensive lineman for the Steelers?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good on that.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
I mean,
I think we've kind of at this point with the Trey Smith tag. From what I could assume, I would feel that Veach has really looked out for tackle trade options and has found nothing, which is why I assume he tagged Trey.
yeah, I just
I actually
said,
yeah, I actually would not be.
everyone exaggerates their height in all levels of sports.
This is very true.
But yeah, the combine measurements are the ones I'm going off of now for when I talk about players, because it would be hype if Landon Jackson was 6'7", because for some reason 6'7" sounds so much better than 6'6". I don't know why. Like, it sounds like an astronomical difference. It's really not that big a difference. But all right, Garrett, I want to talk about this guy. He's getting a lot of media attention already. He might get overdrafted because of this fun ability he's been having. But JJ Pegas out of Ole Miss, the defensive tackle, or maybe a running back, or maybe a fullback, or maybe a wide receiver, Garrett, because he has a receiving touchdown in his career at Ole Miss. 7 total rushing touchdowns in his entire career. I'm seeing a lot of all the graphics and stuff that they post about him is a little misleading. It makes it sound like he did that in one season. It's over his 4-year career. 126 tackles in his 4-year career, 5 pass deflections, 10 sacks. Pretty solid rotational piece. This could be a guy that's like a D tackle 3 and a little special. You know what? This is a Colin Saunders type of player that could develop into a solid D tackle too.
Bring him in so we can run QB sneaks again. Bring him in.
Make him run a QB sneak.
Make him run QB sneaks, man. We can finally bring it back.
You heard of the tush push? What about the JJ
How about the
Pegas push?
With the Pegas push. How about that?
I don't know who's saying his name right between us two, but I mean, the Pegas push or the Pegas push or the Pegas Punisher. That's JJ, man. He's such a fun player to watch. I mean, I would love to show you some of his tape now if I had it with me, but it is so fun to watch offensive lineman touchdowns and defensive lineman touchdowns, big man touchdowns. I mean, hey, Wanya Morris had a touchdown this year.
This is true.
We forget about that. Where did that creative play calling go in the Super Bowl, man? We were
out the window of the plane, apparently.
We were predicting like a Leo Chenal touchdown. We were predicting like something fun, but nothing.
Well, hey, maybe if we had decided to actually go out there and play some football, we might have been able to try some things out. But offense decided to just stay home and
not show up. Mm-hmm. But hey, I mean, JJ would be a very fun late round interior defensive lineman ad that could definitely help us out. I mean, hey, I'm looking forward to potentially what he could offer. But I mean, Garrett, that kind of wraps up most of the guys I wanted to talk about. I mean, let's just see in the comments, like, who are some of your guys' draft crushes so far? Because, like, I mean, there's so many players. I mean, Matthew Golden, I didn't want to talk about because, like, there's just no world we get Matthew Golden. Like, it sucks because there's so many wide receivers in this draft class that I love, and we can't really talk about all of them because we just can't get them. It's like Matthew Golden has shot.
Yeah, that's kind of that's kind of like the blessing and the curse, right, of going really deep in the playoffs every year. It's like you hear all these really fun, cool names, and you're just never gonna get them.
Yeah, and also because maybe we do need another wide receiver, but not in the first round. Like, we can't afford to take that. I mean, unless I don't know, Garrett. If Matthew Golden, who ran a 4.28, just falls to you at pick 31, like, do you take him? Like, or do you?
I mean,
pass? It's like it's such a hard decision. I think all the players at 31 that are going to fall are going to make Veach have to make a really hard decision. Do you go best player available, or do you draft a tackle, or do you draft a defensive lineman?
I just feel like we have to draft a tackle, like even if Golden is there, right? It's just like
Yeah.
you can't watch back that Super Bowl and be like, a wide receiver fixes this, right?
No. Yeah.
It's just that's just the reality, right? I would love to be in the position where we can take luxury picks. We aren't, right?
Well,
we
and the one
absolutely
time
need a tackle.
the 2 times that we did have the luxury of picking whoever we wanted, we really whiffed. And those I would be Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Felix Enudike Uzoma were the 2 times where we had the a position to pick whoever the heck we wanted, and we passed on.
God, and I know this guy really fell off, but like we really took Clyde over Jonathan Taylor.
Well, we took him over him or DeAndre Swift, who's also been much better, or T. Higgins, who went the next pick. Imagine we took T. Higgins instead of
And
Clyde.
it's like yeah. At the time, I was really into the Clyde pick because I loved what they were doing with him at LSU, but like we never used him like that. We just like neutered Clyde the moment he got into the league.
Well, and then if you go to the Felix pick, we picked him over Joey Porter Jr., who we wouldn't even be talking about a corner right now if we had Joey Porter Jr. So
CEH worshiper would not like that. I'm sure he wouldn't.
Well, he's a Saint.
Why he's
now.
not on the yeah, that's why he's not on the roster.
I'm actually very happy for Clyde that he became a Saint. And I mean, the PTSD things definitely came out a little bit later. I think it had to do with the Super Bowl parade incident that happened. That probably triggered those things. But I mean, yeah. Do you want Kareem Hunt back? Because I mean, Kareem Hunt lovey-dovey is all up in our comments, Garrett. I mean, we've talked about this before.
We're probably gonna draft a running back regardless, but I mean, bring Kareem back. He's gonna be cheap, might as well, right?
Yes, I mean, definitely. Our running back room is going to look different next year. Our wide receiver room is going to look different next year. Our tight end room could look different next year. Even though we have Jared Wiley, Noah Gray, and Kelsey coming back, I think you're going to add a new face. That's really going to be a big face. That'll change.
As long as the tackle room looks different, that's all I care about.
Yeah, that too. The offensive guards might all be the same. Because I was going to make a post of like, oh, what the Super Bowl offensive line. I have it right now. I can like pull up like that upgrade, but how Veach transformed the 2020 offensive line to the 2021 offensive line was insane. Will we see a similar blowing up?
I hope so, man. I hope so. We will see.
Because this is the line, Garrett, that we had for the Super Bowl. It was Mike Remmers at left tackle, Nick Allegretti at left guard, but this was before he was like good. This was before he was fully developed. He like got rushed out there.
It was Ryder, right? It was Austin Ryder. And then it was
center.
Allegretti, and then it was.
No, we already said Allegretti, but right guard.
Wiley?
Steven
Wishnowski, and then Wiley. Yeah.
Yes. So,
terrible, dude. Oh my God.
So that was that. And then within one offseason, Orlando Brown Jr. is your left tackle. Joe Tooney's your left guard. Creed Humphrey's your center. Trey Smith is your right guard. And the only piece that stayed the same, actually, was Andrew Wiley.
Yeah.
So...
I find it like, yes, did we absolutely hit home runs on our center and right guard draft picks? Absolutely. I mean, we're saying that like it's super easy thing to do, right? Like we drafted the best center in football, and then we drafted in the 6th round one of the best guards in football that's getting $23 million a year right now, right?
Yeah.
So can Veach bring the magic back again? We will see, but it's to tell. Hey, maybe we needed that luck, right? We need to get blown out in a Super Bowl again to get our offensive line drafting up. Maybe the next draft, the tackle we get is going to be as good as Creed Humphrey.
Oh yeah, true. We could get a second.
History
round
repeats
tackle
itself,
that
man. What
ends
can we
up
say?
being the best. So that means his COVID's going to happen again because that's what happened after we lost the Super Bowl too. So if history truly repeats itself, Garrett. But
indeed.
This is a great comment to end on. Sacrifice Jawaan Taylor to the football gods to win the Super Bowl next year.
Please.
All right, listen, we don't
send him to Detroit.
We don't need to destroy
Banish him.
Jawaan
Banish
Taylor.
him to Detroit.
We don't need to destroy Jawaan Taylor, but I mean, I would like to trade him away for a 7th round pick. That would be very beneficial.
Actually,
to our team
worse one. Send him to the Bears.
I feel like they might do that actually. Because they have our old GM, like our old assistant GM, Ryan Poles. So we have a good relationship with them. So maybe he's like, yeah, let's make a trade. I'll help you guys out. Someone says they want Xavier Watts. I like that pick. However, I think he's falling in the range where we won't be picking. I'm not taking him at 31, and he won't be there by 64. So
Miles Garrett ain't happening anymore. It was never happening. I don't know where you got that inclination that it was going to happen. Even regardless with Trey Smith, it was not going to happen.
Garrett, you said on one of our clips
I said I wanted it to happen. No way it was going to happen, right? Like, I would have loved to have Miles Garrett on our team. Of course I would. It was never going to happen.
Who's wearing 95, though, if it was Miles Garrett and Chris Jones on the same team? Who's wearing 95? I mean, Chris Jones.
Miles Garrett's moving down, 96? Do we have a 96 on our team?
No, we don't.
Then yeah,
I think Chiefs legend Taco Charlton used to wear 96.
Yeah, he did.
No, he wore 94 because.
What did Miles Garrett wear in college? Did he wear 95?
Dude, I think we're like 15 or something.
Oh well, he's not getting 15.
Well, there's another defensive end out of Texas A&M, Shamar Stewart, who's getting a lot of hype as well. So I mean, this is a good class. It's a good class of just positions we need, which sucks because like. I just want all these players, but we don't need a wide receiver as much as I want to. But why do we need Statman Jackson?
I think he was talking about Miles Garrett's number in college, which I think was that. Yeah, it was 15.
Yeah, no, he ain't wearing it. Oh,
Malik Herring wears 94. Fabian Lovett Sr. Yeah, give it to Miles Garrett.
Fabian Lovett Sr. wears 96. All right, guys. We have hit the 50-minute mark. I think it's time to get off the podcast. I mean, we're just talking chop like hell.
We're always
today.
talking chop.
We're talking
always talking it.
We're just talking
maybe
chop
ranting
right
chop, going off on tangent chop, but we're definitely talking it.
Dude, this is peak off season, man. You know, it's hard to stay dialed in, but like it's so fun to just like look at the draft stuff. Like I'm obsessed with all this.
I'm really excited to watch a lot of the film from the guys that I want to see, so we'll be back for sure.
And new hairdo Statman Jackson
new
smiling
hairdo
over here.
Yeah.
Dude, the cut is insane. The cut is fresh.
Dude, you look like a different human.
I am a different human now.
Rose got the Snead jersey on too.
Baby.
Oh wait, we
yes,
forgot to talk about this because I'm wearing it right now. But we got Royals season, bro.
It is Royals season. This is true.
We won again today. I mean, isn't it just spring training, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But like,
should David make a trip back to KC? We make a live stream at a Royals game.
Hey,
maybe Talkin Chop at Royal Stadium.
Maybe
well, tell the Chiefs.
Royals Chop.
Royal talking
Royal.
Talking Crown.
Wait,
Talking Crown.
Talking Crown.
Yeah.
What else is it? Hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, we're ranting anyway. Well, thank you guys for joining in. Click the links below. Subscribe to the YouTube. Just give us a follow. Give us 100% on Spotify and join the Discord in the comments below.
And give us 100% on Rotten Tomatoes as well, you know, with the
True.
Oscars that just happened yesterday. I don't know a single winner, so I can't talk more about them, but I know they happened. So we'll leave you with that. As always, toodles, according to
Toodles.
Kareem Let said toodles. We are delirious this Monday. It is time to leave.